The basic ideas of color will be reviewed, as basics and fundamentals are imperative in formulating the line correctly. We will review an important component of basic ideas of color: underlying pigment and the lightening stages. In front of you, you will see a chart that will indicate natural levels. Levels are indicated of the lightness and darkness of a color. If you look to the far bottom, we will indicate that level 1 will be black, level 2 will be very dark chestnut, 3 will be dark chestnut, 4 will be medium chestnut, and 5 is light chestnut. We use the term chestnut intermixed with brown throughout the LACME system. As we get to level 6, we're in the blonde family with dark blonde, 7 is medium blonde, 8 is light blonde, 9 is very light blonde, and level 10 would be platinum. Underlying pigment is the contributing pigment that is revealed as hair is made lighter with color. As hair is made lighter with color, we must factor in the contributing pigment to make a decision if indeed it works for us or if indeed it works against us in our final color formula. The contributing pigment is always realized at the level you are going to, not the level that you are starting at. So for example, if we had a client who was a natural level 5 and we were moving that client to an artificial level 7, we look across the board and make a realization of what the underlying pigment at level 7 is. It is orange. Our determination then needs to be if indeed the contributing pigment of orange is going to assist us in our final color formula, or if indeed the contributing pigment of orange would be detrimental to our final color formula. So as we go up the underlying pigment list, let's make a realization that underlying pigments from levels 1 through 5 will always be red. Underlying pigment at 6 is going to be red-orange. At level 7, as we discussed, orange. At level 8, yellow-orange. At level 9, yellow. And at level 10, light yellow. So in reviewing, the underlying pigment is realized when you are making hair lighter with color, and it is always realized at the level you are going to. Let's create a secondary example. If the client were a natural level 6 and they were moving to an artificial level 9, the underlying pigment at level 9 is yellow. We have to take that into consideration in creating our final formula. If we are creating a final formula that has more of a warm golden blonde end result, then the underlying pigment of yellow actually assists us in getting to that task. If our formulation was taking us to a level 9 where we wanted the end results to be more cool or neutral, we would know that we would need to neutralize that underlying pigment of yellow at level 9. So in thinking of neutralization of the color, we would move forward to what is commonly called the color wheel or the color star. The color star is comprised of primary and secondary colors that, across from each other on the color star, give the opportunity of neutralization to the color opposite of it. So as we look at the color star, and starting from the top, we will see yellow, green, blue, and violet, moving forward to the left of red and orange. The red, yellow, and blue are our primary colors. Secondary colors being listed as orange, green, and violet. As we would need to neutralize an underlying pigment, we would refer to the color star to help us with that neutralization task. As we previously outlined, if we had a client moving to a level 9 artificially, and that underlying pigment at level 9 is yellow, and we wanted to have the client have a more cool or neutral end result, to neutralize the yellow at level 9, we know that we would go opposite the yellow on the color star, which would bring us to violet. Violet would have the ability of neutralization of the yellow. So we know in our final formula we would have to include a level 9 violet to assist us with that neutralization. Let's do another example that we talked about in the previous slide. Underlying pigment at level 7 was orange. If we were going to create a final color formula that was a copper, then the underlying pigment of orange would be wonderful. It would actually assist us, and there would be absolutely no need to refer to the color star to help neutralize the orange. But if indeed that were a different scenario and we were taking the client lighter to an artificial level 7, and that underlying pigment is orange, but our end result wanted to be cool or neutral, we know that we would have to refer to our color star, go opposite the orange on the color star, which would take us to blue. We would indeed know that we would have to create a formula which would include at level 7 some blue tones to help with the neutralization of the orange, to lend us to a more neutral, cool, or completely cool level 7 end result. The same would be true in terms of green and red. If we were working with a client within underlying pigment levels of 1 to 5, we know that that remaining pigment is going to be red. If we are creating a red or warm end result, we might not need to incorporate anything in the formula to neutralize the red. But if indeed you were taking a client from a natural level 2 to an artificial level 5, and in the client consultation we did not want to visualize any red for the end result, we wanted a more neutral or possibly golden end result, we know that we would have to go across the color star to the complementary color of green and add green in at the level 5 as part of our final formula. Lakme works on an international coding or numbering system to delineate the levels and tones of our colors. As previously discussed, our level system works from 1 through 10, with 1 being the darkest at black and 10 being the lightest at platinum blonde. So levels 1 are black, levels 2 through 5 are our chestnut, as previously discussed, also called brown series of levels. Then at level 6 we move into our blonde series. At 6 dark blonde, 7 medium blonde, 8 light blonde, 9 very light blonde, and 10 being our lightest blonde within the 1 to 10 level system of platinum blonde. Our numerations are indicated by a number and then a slash and then 2 additional numbers. The number that is indicated previous to the slash is always going to indicate the level. The level will always indicate the lightness or darkness of the color, 1 being the darkest at black and 10 being the lightest at platinum blonde. After the level number, there is a stroke, and there are 2 additional numbers after the slash. Those additional numbers will be indicative of the tone of that particular level of color. The numbering system for Lakme tones are as follows. 0 will indicate a natural or neutral. 1 will be an ash, but more importantly, it is a green-based ash. 2 is a violet ash. 3 is gold. 4 is copper. 5 is mahogany. 6 is the tone of chestnut. 7 is blue, and 9 is intense red. Let us review the Lakme numbering system in a few examples. To the far left, we have a color indicative of 6/6/5. The first 6 is indicating the level or the lightness or darkness of that particular color. If you can recall the numbers for the leveling system, 6 is a dark blonde. Then we have a stroke, and we have a 6/5. The first number after the slash, the 6, is indicative of the primary tone of that particular color. That tonal value is represented at 75%, and at the number 6, tonally, we are talking about chestnut. The second number after the stroke is indicative of the secondary tone, and it is represented at 25%. And that number being 5 is going to represent a secondary tone of mahogany. So 6/6/5 is going to be indicative of dark blonde, chestnut, mahogany. On our secondary example, 7 stroke 4 9. The 7 is indicative of the level, and if you can remember what level 7 is, if you guessed medium blonde, you're absolutely right. And then we're going to have our stroke, and then the second number after that is indicative of the primary tone of copper and a secondary tone of red. So it will be the level, a stroke, 2 numbers after the stroke. The first number after the stroke is the primary tonality, representing 75% of the tonal value, and the secondary number is the secondary tonal value, representing 25%. If the numbers after the stroke were exactly the same, for example, 8 stroke 2 2, it would mean that 100% of the tonal value of that level 8 would be violet, because 2 in tones represents violet. So sometimes after the stroke the numbers will be the same, and sometimes after the stroke the numbers will be different. Each of those numbers will represent the tonal value of that particular color.